Hey guys, on today's episode, we're working on this, a $2.5 million Porsche 918. Now, if you remember from last week's episode, the Ferrari 360, we had to remove all of the clear bra. We have to do the same thing here, but this time, this particular car, for whatever reason, has been sitting in storage. There's little overspray, there's dots of junk everywhere. It's actually in really rough shape, so we have a lot of work to do. But interestingly enough, you guys left me a ton of comments about how to properly remove that clear bra, and you gave me a really cool tip. I'm gonna show everybody exactly what you showed me a couple of weeks ago. It is a game changer. Stay tuned. Today on this episode of Drive Protect. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. More on this coming up. The Porsche 918 Spyder was produced between September 2013 and June 2015 with a total of 918 units ever produced and only 294 imported to the United States, this one being number 316. It comes with a 4.6-liter V8 paired with two electric motors cranking out nearly 900 combined horsepower. 0 to 60 is 2.2 seconds and a top speed of 214 miles per hour. Now keep in mind, during this era, the holy trinity of hypercars, the 918, the McLaren P1, and of course the LaFerrari, were not using this hybrid technology just to save fuel or whatever. Instead, it was used to amplify performance that really hadn't ever been done before on this scale. Although both the P1 and the LaFerrari are spectacular cars in their own right, obviously, the 918 was extra special because it was all-wheel drive due to the front electric motors, giving it absolutely insane grip. It had a longer electric range, although not that long, but it was still longer, 12 to 19 miles compared to the others, and at the time, it was the only one that could be plugged in at home for home charging. The 918 was the most practical / usable car that allowed you to dream of electric hypercar silent trips to the local grocery store in an $845,000 daily driver. Now, before removing the old PPF, I gave her a proper rinse, wash, and dry just to avoid any potential scratches during the next step. I hope you enjoy the process as much as I do. This is the first 918 I've had in the studio. I've done a bunch of them, but never had one in the studio. I'm in love. When you're working the tight spots with a small brush, it can be really helpful to use a spray bottle filled 50-50 with water and Brute to flush out the trapped dirt from the crevices. Now, I affectionately call this the Kevin Brown method because the first time I ever saw someone do it, of course, was Kevin Brown to clean out the door jambs. It's just a really cool process. I repeated the same spray bottle with Brute and water mixture trick on the carbon ceramic brakes as well. Now, when carbon ceramic brakes are not really dirty like this one here, it wasn't on a racetrack, etc., it doesn't really warrant using stronger cleaners. So I try to avoid that type of cleaner on CCB's carbon ceramic brakes if at all possible. In this case, I'm just using a light agitation, spray a little bit of Brute and a little bit of water as needed, especially if they're coated. If they're coated beforehand, it makes this process incredibly easy to do. For the super tight spots, I'm using a long, skinny, and flexible wheel. It's a really cool tool. And if you're wondering why I'm not removing the wheels, it's because, well, there's multiple reasons. But number one, they aren't super dirty because, again, the CCBs. Two, I have a lift, so there's plenty of space, both front and back, to clean them properly. But most importantly, if I can avoid removing center locks on a $2 million plus car, I'm going to take every opportunity to minimize the tremendous amount of downside of something going wrong during that removal process. This is why having so many unique tools and different long, flexible ones, short, stubby ones, whatever, is really important when you have this sort of unique situations pop up like this one. With the wheels and the paint now soaking, I quickly washed the undercarriage, which was really just, honestly, an excuse to go underneath and check out all the flat bottom, the cool aero, that I'm going to need to polish all that later, but clearly it wasn't that dirty, but I just wanted to scrub it anyways because it's just super cool to be underneath a 918. All right, as you can tell, I'm hopping around on the car, not just because it's $2.5 million, but obviously there's lots of sensitive things on here, sort of like archaeology. I'm just doing a little bit, kind of seeing where it goes, and then going further and further. Now, this here, if you zoom in, I have my fingernail through my glove, and you see I'm scrubbing the tire. You see that like kind of brown stuff that's coming out? That is old tire shine. And it's not really going to come off without a ton of scrubbing. Now, the way that you'd want to get that off normally is I use Plum, right? You spray a bunch of Plum on there, spray it on the wheel, caliper, the whole 9 yards, and you clean it up. Because this car is crazy expensive and there's carbon ceramic brakes and the low miles and so on and so forth, I'm not going to do that. You saw me using Brute in a mixture of 50-50 with water, going in there and just cleaning everything up because you just don't need it. It doesn't kick out a whole lot of brake dust. But here, I actually do need the pH level to be different than, let's say, neutral or slightly off neutral. In this case, it is high, so it's not acid. And I leave it on just like that. Give it a minute or two, you can see it's starting to turn brown. It's chewing up all the oils that are on there. And I take a little brush and I'll start to scrub this, and it'll turn the rubber from very shiny, kind of brown, old. It's just been layered upon layered upon layered, and especially this car in California, just been roasted in the sun. It'll turn it back to a matte finish. Again, I'll put tire dressing back on here, but if you keep layering dressing on dressing on dressing without eventually, every couple of months, scrubbing it off, it's got nowhere to go. See it right there, it just came off. See it? Now behind it, you can see the tire is all matte finish. All right, in last week's video, we worked on a Ferrari. It was about $200,000, and we were removing the clear bra. Obviously, this one's $2.5 million, so either Ferrari or Porsche, I don't want to ruin the paint. And so somebody left me a comment within that video and said, hey, try this technique. It's less likely to put pressure on the paint and peel it off or to pop some of the clear coat off. So normally, let's say I have the hot water right here, pour the hot water on, pick the edge up, and then I would pull this direction. That's what I did on the last one. Pull this way, and sort of pull it down that direction. What the comment said, and I tried this earlier on a different car and it worked perfectly, put the hot water on, so on and so forth, peel it up, then come from this direction and peel this way going that direction, which is kind of neat, right? Peeling up and you'll see it start to pull up. I'll show you in a second, it's just hard to do on camera. That way you're not pulling back on the paint. So if the paint's down here and you're actually pulling the paint up. In this case, you're pulling it diagonally, so you're putting less tension on the clear coat or the paint or the single stage or whatever car you're working on, and less likely to then pull it up. So I'll show you how to do it on this one, but that slight change was massive. So we're gonna heat this up, do the same thing I normally do. And in this case, you can also use a towel, especially on this one, it's really huge. And I'm gonna peel up an edge. There it goes. Okay. So once we get to this big area, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. But for now, we have to, I don't have any fingernails. So I just finished removing the PPF on the hood, and you can see it doesn't look that much different than it did before. Now in person, it really does. There are swirls and scratches, and over here there's sanding mark, and right here there's a really deep sanding mark, which I know I'm gonna find when I remove the rest of it. But if you're thinking, why did you remove it? One, the customer had a bunch of rock chips, because he actually does drive it, which is cool, and the rock chips are in the PPF, which is great. We're gonna remove it and replace it. But when you remove and replace it, you sort of want it to match the rest of the car. That's number one. Number two, he already understood that there were some swirls and things, I guess, prior to purchasing it or whatever the case may be. And he said, I want it absolutely perfect. So remove everything, sand all this out, polish all this out, whatever you got to do to make this perfect, then go in and put a brand new matching PPF on the rest of the paint. So this is a lot of work to go after the last maybe 5, 6, 7% of the car, but it's $2.5 million. It's one of the most amazing, I can't believe I'm even touching that, one of the most amazing supercars that Porsche has ever made. So to go after that 4 or 5%, I'm happy to do that. And to me, 2.5 million, that makes sense. When I'm done, this thing is gonna be phenomenal. Thankfully, later that night, I got some help from a buddy, as it was, one, getting late, and removing PPF is just a nightmare process. It takes a long time, and your fingers are the worst for the wear. But anyways, he prefers hot water in a spray bottle versus me using the kettle. He uses a combination of both. I've never seen that before. And then he also, what he does is he lightly scores the edges, the hard edges or the 90-degree edges beforehand, pulls off a little thin piece, and then you can pull much easier. In that same method I was saying before, you pull towards you as opposed to pulling away. So every time we take a PPF off, there's always a new way of doing it, and it's really fascinating to work with other people and see what works best for them, and hopefully share that with everybody watching now. Squarespace is an all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Now, whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content in even time, all in one place and all on your own terms. Start a completely personalized website with the new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. Choose from professionally curated layout and style options to build a unique online presence from the ground up, tailored to your brand or business and optimized for every device. Easily launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated optimized SEO tools so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. Squarespace makes checkout seamless for your customers with simple but powerful payment tools. Accept credit cards, PayPal, and Apple Pay, and in eligible countries, offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. You can also upload video content, organize your video library, and showcase your content on beautiful video pages. You can even sell access to your video library by adding a paywall to your content, which is pretty cool. Go to squarespace.com for your free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AMONYC to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Now, back to the 918. Check out my fingers just 2 hours after playing with hot water and lots of glue. Apparently my skin does not like to stay on. The next morning, with the PPF removed along with my skin, I tested the process of removing those heavy sanding marks on the hood just to get an idea of how soft the paint might be. Now, the before and after on that little area was awesome, so I decided to do a full hood 50-50. Now, silvers in general are tough to see, no less on camera, but when they're done right, the difference is very noticeable. And when you put a PPF on, and then later on when you put a coating on it, it really just builds that gloss. And if you do silver right, it'll look like it's dripping. Behind behind the camera now and I just did a before and after. Now looking from the camera perspective, you probably can't see a massive difference, but in person it is incredible because this no longer has any of those swirls or scratches. In other words, this likely happened during the manufacturing process. I shot a video on a Ferrari. That one had a ton of sanding marks, and people, a lot of comments were like, oh my God, how can a brand new car this expensive have that? Then I did the Rivalto, same kind of concept, not as bad as the Ferrari, but more expensive car, and it still had that sort of sanding marks. That's what I'm seeing here. Well, this is gone now, but the ones that are in here, I have to get out. And the idea is like, well, how could you possibly have that on a new car? So there's a couple reasons. A lot of times, because these are all handmade, maybe the process is a little bit different from one guy to the next. The other reason is a lot of times when the paint is fresh or warm or hot or new or however you want to describe it, and you polish out all the sanding marks, you know, they sand it after they paint it, so they take off the little dust nibs, so it's perfect, and it swells, it's very big, right? So it's puffy, for the lack of a better word, and then as it cools down and gasses out, it shrinks back down, and those scratches that were still there rise to the surface. So that's another theory as to why a car that's 2.5 million would have these scratches on it. Nonetheless, it's definitely gassed out, it's been years, etc. So now we go back in, take everything out, and when you go and you put PPF on top of it, and then you put a coating on top of that, you are just making that thickness, I'm using air quotes here, that thickness just really depth, a lot of shine. So the more layers you kind of put up, that's the secret to making this go from, you know, a 95 or a 96 all the way to 100. Now, if you're wondering what products I'm using, here's a little quick recap. So for the most part, for those scratches, the sanding marks, I'm using the shear cutting pad. This is what I used. You'll notice it's blue. Why? Because I actually went with the Rupes cutting liquid here. So this compound is much, D8 course, it is much heavier than exfoliate because it's designed to take out these types of sanding marks. So when I was done with that, step 2, which is it here, you can see these are the ones I actually used. I used exfoliate on that. So I did a 2-step specifically to remove those sanding marks, but for the other parts of the car that may not need that, I'll probably just end up going either exfoliate and the straight cut foam pad, or exfoliate and the straight cut wool pad. So probably a full day, maybe a little bit more than a day to do the rest of it. Lots of little ins and outs and 3 inches and 2 inches and that kind of thing. Then when we're done from there, we'll reinstall a brand new PPF, coating, so on and so forth, and work on the interior. So that's what's going on. Now I have a ton of work to do, and it's totally worth it. This thing's gonna look 4 or 5% better than it does right now, or it did when it came in, and that is like incredible on a $2.5 million car. It's worth every penny. All right, so I'm just about finished with the 6-inch on the 918. I'm gonna hop into the 3-inch, but while I was using the 6-inch, something interesting happened. Now, I'm gonna equate this sort of issue to driving a race car. So when you're driving a race car and you know, a couple laps in or whatever, and the tires fall off, that means they become very greasy, and it's just like, hey, you can't hold the corner, you can't carry the same speed, and you replace the tires. I'm gonna equate that to a pad. Actually, it looks like a tire, right? And it gets filled, it's not cutting as much, and it's like, okay, it's time to switch pads or clean them out or whatever, and then put new ones on and you're good to go. But every once in a while on, let's say, the race car, there's something that happens that's more than just, you know, the tires aren't exactly gripping. There's something like a ball joint or the axle is broken or some crazy thing that doesn't happen very often, but you can feel it through the steering wheel. Same kind of thing happened with my machine. I'm using the machine on flat areas. I'm like, okay, totally fine. But as soon as I would go to a curve, I could start to feel a different vibration. And I was like, that kind of doesn't feel like the tires. That kind of doesn't feel like the pad. I looked at the pad, I'm like, it's relatively clean. What's going on here? And what I found out was every year or so, I changed the backing plate. And when the backing plate starts to lose its Velcro stickiness, the pad itself can kind of undulate, it can move around. And you have to remember, this is a large throw machine, so I'm exaggerating here, but it's going up and down and up and down. So there's a lot of centripetal force going all over the place. So this really needs to stick. So here's the example. This is the one I just took off that I was using on the car, probably 3/4 of the car, until I figured out, like, what's going on here? The ball joint, something weird, non-tires. And watch, I throw it on here like that, and I go to peel it off, take my finger. That's incredibly easy for those of you who've used machines before, to do that with one little finger. So put that away. This is the new pad, or excuse me, the new backing plate, where it's got a really thick, strong Velcro. So same thing, just threw it on. I can't get this off without putting this machine down. So it's a different grippiness. So the moral of the story is, keep track. It may not just be the pad that's, you know, use your instinct. Like something's not right now, or maybe it's over soaked and if the pad's flopping, okay, maybe not. And then you replace it and you have the same kind of, you know, ball joint type issue. Then you might think about replacing your backing plate. Here's a super tight shot of the old backing plate. Notice how the fingers are open compared to the new backing plate. They're sort of like sticking up, where the fingers on the new one are bent over and much tighter, sort of like gripping it, making for more pad adhesion to the backing plate and less pad wobble during that large orbit that I was feeling behind the machine. It's really cool. Next, I worked on all the tight areas with a 3-inch LHR 75. Now, it's not until you're underneath the car that you can really appreciate the breadth of this tire. 325/30/21, absolutely massive. Now, years ago when I was doing an inspection on a brand new 918, it had 0 miles on it, I found during the inspection a nail inside the tire. In fact, I actually kept that tire outside as a memory, and the reason why is this owner showed up. He was very excited. I usually go through and do my PPI, make sure the paint looking good, the whole thing, wax, polish, whatever it was. It made it absolutely perfect. At the last moment, I just go through and do my inspection and I went, oh, there was a nail in here. And he was so excited. He got off his own helicopter. He came in to drive this beloved car. And then when I told him, I was like, listen, it's not a good look right now. It's not safe to drive this. I just found it. It must have come off the trailer and got it. Who knows? He was really disappointed, but at the same time, he's like, listen, let's just get it fixed. And it wasn't like it's a day fix. It would take a couple of months because at that point, it was a brand new car and these tires are, you can't just go to the store and find these tires. So it took a couple of months for it to actually get replaced. My point being is I kept that tire all these years to remind me about patience. This man was so, oh my gosh, it was like I took away his puppy dog. He was so upset, but at the same time, someone who has this much power and wealth and knowledge and wisdom said, hey, you know what? Let's just have a little patience. Let's just get the right tire. Let's do everything the right way. And I never forgot that. In fact, like I said, I've kept that 918 tire since the day that these came out. Next up was replacing all the paint protection film on the freshly polished paint. Days and days of applying it on the outside, of course, on the kick panels, on the inside of the car, and of course, the front frunk. With the paint corrected and the PPF installed, I focused on the interior cleaning with lather and then silk leather balm to protect it. Leather balm in this case should be used annually, especially because it's a Spyder. I can tell you during the application process on this car, the leather was very dry and it was giving me this grippy or sort of rough feeling as I was massaging it in. In other words, it needed it badly. You can see a little bit of blotchiness here and there, and that's normal because some areas absorb more material, in this case silk, than others. So just reapply to those dry areas to continually feed the thirsty leather in that specific area that drank it all up. When you're done, buff to a matte finish and it'll look absolutely fantastic. Now stay off the seats if you can for about 24 hours just to give it the best chance to absorb into the material. Because this is a monocoque, there isn't carpet on the floor. Just really, really expensive carbon fiber mats that I cleaned with lather and a brush. Underneath the floor mats, the floor itself had a bunch of pebbles and dirt or whatever, but if you use a plastic crevice tool, you have a chance of scratching that carbon fiber. However, if that's all you have, not a big deal. Just try to keep the nozzle a little bit off the surface so you're sucking up the dirt into the crevice tool. If you do have a brush head, this is the perfect time to use it. Really helpful on sensitive surfaces if you have one. For the Alcantara steering wheel, which wasn't very greasy or dirty, I lightly touched it up by first spraying shag into a clean microfiber towel and then just gently blotting it onto the fibers. This is more of I guess I would call it my maintenance routine, then a full-out cleaning or restoration with brushes, etc. It's sort of like using a clay bar. If the Alcantara doesn't need heavy scrubbing, then just avoid it if at all possible. Next, I installed Gillet wheel coating to the rims from the back and the front for total coverage.
What do you think, Ben?
I repeated the same steps to coat the paint with Reflex Pro 2. Now, a car of this size takes roughly about an hour. You can obviously shorten that up if you have a partner or somebody that's working with you, and it uses about 80 to 90% of the bottle, so keep all that in mind. Finally, I cleaned up the windows and then added mud tire gel to the now clean rubber to complete the look. I emphasize the clean rubber, so every 4, 5, 6 months, something like that, you really do need to scrub off all the old tire dressing and then reapply it. And you're going to see a little bit of a different sheen. It's a lot deeper and more healthy, if you would. It's less brown.
All right, so what can I say? I am driving the 918 Spyder. Wow. This thing is amazing. All right, so produced from 2013 to 2015. You can imagine in 2013, this thing was absolutely insane for one main reason. There wasn't really hybrid technology in terms of hyper and supercars. Now, you can hear the engine right now doing 66 miles an hour, and we're in sport mode. But this is pretty cool. If I flip this switch, the tach goes down to 0, and we're literally floating in the air. Now you get about 10, 12 miles of electric, so you can kind of sneak out of your garage at 5 o'clock in the morning and go for a drive. To me, I think that's amazing in 2013. I'm gonna go back to sport mode. And the trickle-down effect of that is the Taycan. If you look on the front here, it reminds me of exactly the Taycan that I had before, and this was years later. So these supercars, these hypercars, all have this lineage, and they create these other cars like the 959 to the 964. So I love that. Now, the thing about this that's really exciting to me is at the time you think of LaFerrari, you think of P1, and of course the 918. In terms of Porsche, I don't think they strayed from what Porsche does, which is making an amazing, perfectly drivable, every single day, livable car that's also completely insane. When you look at the other ones like the LaFerrari, let's say, wild, amazing car, outrageous, crazy expensive. Would I want to drive it every day? Not really sure. The P1, your hair's on fire, complete race car, which is great. But would I want to drive it every day? I'm not sure. This car, you can actually, as crazy as it sounds, daily drive it. And I know that's nuts. You have a lift here. I mean, even down here, you have a cup holder. So it's very, very livable, all-wheel drive, very compact, and handles fantastic because it's a Porsche. But what makes it very exciting to me is if you want to get in the car and drive it. It's raining, it's whatever, and you just have to experience it. You can do that without really compromising. Oh my gosh, this is so delicate that, although expensive, that I can't drive it right now. And I think that's the essence of Porsche for me that I am obsessed with and why I love it so much. And if you combine that with the hybrid technology and nearly 900 horsepower, you got a pretty killer car. Aside from the fact that it is a supercar and you have nearly 900 horse, listen to that engine.
All right, guys, check this out. Now, normally I like to give a little gift with every detail, especially a big one like this. When I get a new car in, you've seen me, I put the window sticker in a frame and give it to the owner. This particular one, obviously not a brand new car, but I wanted to do something extra special because he delivered it, or he shipped it all the way from California. Pretty cool. Now, if you notice here, this is an acrylic print versus a canvas print. They have multiple options. It's Rensport design. I actually did it for my 964. I did it for the GT3. But the cool thing is you can give the actual mileage, 12,902 when it left California, you know, when he put it on the truck. And I wanted to make this gauge for him so he can put it up on his wall. Anyways, there's acrylic, there's canvas, there's a couple of different options, but I think it's a really beautiful thing that reminds you of what the car is, and the dashboards are just so iconic. So anyways, this is my little gift to him. I just wanted to see what it looked like. I'm gonna wrap it back up, put it in the trailer, and hopefully when he gets back and opens it, he'll be a surprise. But really cool gift. Check it out, rensportdesign.com. As always, guys, thanks for watching. And again, you can see in the background, I'll have more information on the Charger sitting there coming soon. This car fought us the entire way, but again, it's well worth all the effort. The video is going to be great, but we're still trying to get this engine running. Video coming very soon. Likewise, I've also gotten a lot of questions about shipping products to Australia. What's great is we ship from within Australia daily from our Sydney location at Stash. Visit ammonyc.au if you're in Australia or New Zealand. As always, guys, thanks again, and we'll see you next week.